I do have something where I think I've figured out what the epitome of white privilege is.
Oh,
It was a thought that actually just came to me today. It's anybody who thinks they can do secret menu orders at fast food restaurants.
oh my God. Yeah, that's
That is the
yes.
epitome of white privilege and classism. If you think you can make up some horseshit gangbang and then walk in and order that from somebody making minimum wage or less than, and they should know what the fuck you're talking about and acquiesce your horrendous demand, that you should be executed
I also
because
like I would even take it a step further and just say that anyone that goes to a place where you can get a burger for less than $2 and then asks to change stuff on that burger should also like one, their food should be spat in
right.
and then they should be shot, yeah, on site.
Like really you have to take everything off and then put a custom sauce on. You really can't just scrape the shit off with a french fry and be done with it. You can't
Yeah,
pick two
it's
pickles off with your fingers. What the fuck is
yeah, those
wrong with
people
you?
that are like the Big Mac costs 4.49, but if you just get a double cheeseburger, ask for an extra bun, shredded lettuce and Big Mac sauce, it comes out to 3.15.
You
And I'm
say
gonna go hang from this noose now.
right, you make all of this work for essentially corporate slave labor. They have to do all of this so you can save $1. Uh and, and you don't even get the real experience. Like the fuck,
Yeah,
just eat a cheeseburger. Just
yeah.
did you
It's
need? Yeah, it's fucking horrendous. I don't know why that came into my head. I think it's because like Chick-fil-A is about to open up here and people are already talking like about the secret
oh,
menus.
I heard
And
I heard about that. I actually heard about that today. I couldn't believe that there wasn't Chick-fil-A there before. That's crazy.
yeah, so like uh I just like I instantly was like enraged. I didn't even read about it or anything. I was just like, why the fuck are you going in there and harassing some? You can work here when you're 14. So the person
Yeah.
at the counter is probably between 14 and 16 years old. It's their first job, and you're gonna walk in and give me a fucking animal style bukkake chicken sandwich, and like they're supposed to know what the fuck you're talking about. It
Me and
just
my
fucking
brother like have this bit about Taco Bell because we used to frequent. I still do, but we used to frequent Taco Bell a ton when we lived together. Where Taco Bell should just have a like a menu option where you go up to the drive-through and you just shout like you just like make like vomiting noises at the actual speaker and then they just give you a bunch of shit for like $10 because everything from there not only tastes the same but it pretty much costs the same amount too. So you just like it doesn't matter what you get at Taco Bell, it's some combination of a tortilla, meat and cheese, lettuce, sour cream, and then they
right,
just find a way to make that into 40 different things. And then same thing if you
exact.
get chicken, it's just a tortilla, chicken, cheese, sour cream, and then they find a way to make the so you should just be able to go up to Taco Bell and just yell some like esoteric fucking like thieves can't deep speech and they just hand you a bag and you just fucking hand over a $10 bill and call it a day.
So I say this as a firm lover of Mexican food and other forms of South American cuisine, but I brought some foreign friends to like a Taco John's, which is like a Taco Bell, and they they start asking like the differences between enchiladas, tacos, burritos, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, it's like tortilla, meat, and cheese. Oh, it's like tortilla, meat, and cheese. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, it's all kind of the same and kind of different. Just fucking eat one. Uh,
Yeah, it's just how you arrange it or how you're
yeah,
feeling
yeah,
on that particular day.
right. You like the cheese inside or outside of the tortilla? Like,
Sour cream on the
yeah,
side or inside, that's a different menu item. Yeah, it's fucking
right.
crazy.
If you get a quesadilla, uh, like there's like a you can get like the quesadilla, or you can get like the fuck. I forget all my Mexican food. Whatever, they're all the fucking same. Like you get your enchilada and your burrito, and it's like, well, the one they put the beans on the outside, and
Yeah.
same shit.
Speaking of
It's
white privilege and Mexican food, I don't know if you've ever seen this video. I think it's a TikTok or maybe it was like just a Twitter video or something, but it'll never leave my memory for as long as I live, and it's probably one of the worst things I've ever seen. There was this white woman that was talking about like party style nachos, and she was doing like one of those like tutorials on how to make them. And I'm not kidding when I tell you that to start the tutorial, she has this like granite countertop, right? She just dumped a fuck ton of nacho cheese on the granite countertop. No like plate,
What?
no like cutting board, just on the countertop. And then she added the meat, and then she added all like the tomatoes and the salsa and rotel. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty gross, but like at least you know she's gonna like serve it on a plate or something. Then she took a bunch of chips and she took her hands, like she dumped a bunch of chips and then she took her hands and she started just mashing everything together with her hands. She's not even wearing gloves or like even pretending like this is any semblance of like hygienic. And then once she was done, she took all of her weird like gross vomit looking nacho and then just opened like those mini sized tortillas, or not tortillas, those small bags of Doritos, like the fun size bags, and she would
Right.
just like scrape a portion in with her hand and then hand it to someone and then they'd walk away. And
What a disgusting
I
cunt.
yeah, I feel like that's what they serve you in like Alcatraz.
Right.
Um,
That's that sounds. First
just
off, that
this,
does sound like prison food. You're like
yeah, it's just this
fucking
amalgamation of meat paste, and
right.
she just
Crush.
scrapes it with her fucking hand into a small disposable container.
You
Fucking
crush up
disgusting, man.
ramen in the package, and then
Yeah,
you put a fucking can of tuna and the powder in there, and then you
yeah.
sprinkle a little like chocolate milk mix on top and eat it. That's my prison fucking snack. This fucking that's this bitch. What the fuck is wrong with white people and food?
I don't
Like,
know, man. I always tell my friends like you can't tell me because like I didn't grow up in this country and I certainly wasn't raised like I grew up in this country. So there's some shit where I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm white, I get the privilege from some of this stuff. And then there's other shit where I'm like, there's a reason that I still believe in like the Yugoslavian firing squad as the most effective form of like execution because some of the shit, yeah, it's absurd.
there's
Uh, mm,
like white people well, okay, like was white people's a broad generalization, but like particularly like Western European, like French food is overrated. Overrated as fuck. A croissant, a baguette, it's fucking bread. It's like 20 different variations of bread. Who fucking
croissant.
cares? It's bread. And British food is the fucking most disgusting shit on the planet. Like fucking I mean,
Oh
even if
yeah,
it's
like
not
beans on
disgusting,
toast.
right?
Yeah.
Like beans and toast and like shepherd's pie. Even if it doesn't taste bad, it's not like it lacks like there's like an
Mm-hmm.
essence to other cultures' food. It's like somewhere along the line, white people forgot food is like your life force. Like you die
Mm-hmm.
without it, and they just I don't know, they just eat shit. Like white people eat
Yeah.
shit, and like there's people I work with have no taste palate. I ate sushi once, like I bought it, and they like someone was almost gagging because I ate raw
Oh my
tuna,
god. That's
and
yeah, that's
like
absurd.
I'm like I eat raw beef. I eat raw beef sometimes from when you get like a beef tartare or
Yeah.
like some sushi places will actually prepare like a rare beef. Fucking delicious. Like it can't even be. It just can't even be compared. And like
Like one of my favorite snacks is this shit called pasteta, and I'm sure you've seen it, but it's this it's a chicken liver pate. So it's like a paste,
oh
but
okay.
it comes in a can, so it's like tuna kind of, but it's like it's a paste. And it's extremely fatty. Like it's like
Mm.
90% fat. But you spread that shit on like a cracker or like a piece of bread, and it's like the most delicious thing on the planet, but it looks a little like it looks like fried spam kind of. So I can
Okay.
get just from like the the view standpoint, it may not look that great. But yeah, every time I break it out and I'm like, I'm having some of this, and they're like, what is that? And I'll turn on my webcam and show them, or I'll show it to someone in real life. They're like, oh, it's like dog food. I'm like, bro, it comes in a can and that makes it dog food. You eat fucking Hermel chili or Hormel fucking chili that was made 60 years ago in the fucking like
Right.
industrial revolution. You eat fucking Chef Boyardee lasagna. That shit is processed chicken dog food. Like that
Right.
shit, ugh, I can't stand it.
It's not even it's like a byproduct of like it's like a waste.
Yeah.
It's like our food is made of like waste byproduct materials. Like even like artificial sweeteners are like it's like the is it like isn't aspartame made from like the shit of E. coli essentially? Like
I have no
that's
idea,
what
but
fucking E. coli
that
takes a
sounds
shit
tight.
and makes aspartame, and then Donald Rumsfeld just fucking helps fast track it through the FDA, and then it's in our soda. And then a couple years later in the 80s, Tab gives you cancer, so they take it off the market. Like that's like it's what fucking happens. That's what white people eat. They eat neon blue corn syrup and then wonder why everyone in the country has diabetes. And like they don't eat fucking fish. They don't eat lean meat. Like even the pork and cheap beef here is different than other countries because of our corn subsidy. So all of our animals eat like high carb fatty diets, where in other countries they eat lean grain and uh
Yeah.
they're like a lot healthier.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to hear shit from anyone I work with about food. And on top of that, like I know it's kind of a meme now to be like white people can't handle spice, but they really fucking can't.
Oh no, absolutely not.
I
It it's yeah, there was a place I used to go to in Cleveland that and this is kind of gonna circle back on the secret menu thing, and maybe this is a little pretentious, but there was this noodle place down the street from me. I fucking love noodles. Like I fucking Vietnamese noodles. I like ramen. I like banh mi. Like all this. Like I
mhm.
just like any type of noodle. That shit slaps. And there was this noodle place down the street from me that was like a local place, and they had like spice levels, right? And there's like one like habanero, two habanero, or three habanero as far as like on the menu. And so I'd always get the three habanero, and I'm like, man, this shit like
Ah,
it's good, it tastes good, but this is not spicy at all. And so one day I like tried to transcend the language barrier, and I'm like, can you make it extra spicy? And she looked at me and she goes, how spicy? I'm like, how do you guys like it? And she goes, okay, okay, okay. And then she comes back out and it's like perfect. Like I'm fucking my sinuses are opening up. I can feel my butthole
right.
quenching a little bit. Like everything is being just like compressed and released inside my body. And I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And she told me I can't remember what the word was, but she specifically told me that if I ever wanted that again and she wasn't working, to say this word. And I think it was Vietnamese because I'm pretty sure it was a
Uh,
Vietnamese place. And I wish I could like I wish I could remember
that,
the word, but I felt like a secret agent every time I'd come in there because I'd order my food and then I'd be like to the waiter, I'm like, "Hey yo," and I dropped the word, and then they looked at me and they're like, okay, okay," and then they go back
so
to the kitchen, and I can
you
hear the word being thrown around, and everyone's laughing in the back, and I'm like, "Let's fucking go."
yeah,
It probably means
dude,
white boy or some shit. I don't know.
you are not making a violation though of the secret menu. You are 100% in the clear. Those places do that to cover their ass because white
Oh
people
yeah,
always think they're like, "Oh, I can try the spicy one," and they'll fucking
yeah,
die.
yeah, hundred
So
percent.
I'm not like gonna toot my own horn, but like I cut my teeth eating noodles in Sichuan in China. So
Mm-hmm.
like where they make shit so like retarded spicy that there's rumors that like some of the places put some kind of basically opiate like plant in there to numb you out while you're eating it so you don't feel like you're
That's
dying.
oh
Um
man, I need to go to
and
China. That
yeah,
sounds so
so
sick.
and you didn't see this video, but I actually posted a video a couple weeks ago of me eating a Carolina Reaper. I fucking ate that bitch raw. Um,
Damn.
and honestly, was not that bad except for the after effects. Those were horrible. My stomach hurt for like 2 fucking days. But the spice is fun. I love that. So you totally were in the clear. Those places can't like just serve that shit to people because they'll literally like complain. They'll like call the
Yeah,
health department. They'll be like, I went to the hospital. I went to the hospital. They served me nuclear waste. And it's
yeah,
like, nah, that shit. Spice is like, I get a little bit of a high from it.
yeah.
Like I
No,
get this
100%. It's the capsaicin or whatever that shit is.
right.
That like I fucking yeah, like I would bathe in that if I could, man.
So I have pure capsaicin powder in my house, and it sometimes leads to disasters. Because I like to eat spicy shit, and like the only thing I don't like is my lips burning. That's always the worst to me. I don't know why. I can handle everything else, but man, I fucking hate it when my lips hurt.
Yeah, I don't have that problem as much. Sometimes, um, like something will get stuck in my teeth because my teeth are all sorts of fucked up, and this is kind of relating back to the British food thing. But my teeth are all sorts of fucked up, so sometimes I'll get something stuck in my tooth, and I'll be picking at it with my tongue, and it turns out to be like a fucking like a habanero pepper flake or something. And I'll be picking at it with my tongue so much that my tongue gets like raw from just
Right.
touching pure fucking heat over and over. That's my main problem with spicy food.
Oh shit. Yeah,
But it's
dude, I
worth it.
don't.
It's so
Yeah,
worth it.
the I think one of the only times I ever really had the whole like burning asshole stuff too with spicy food is when I ate the Carolina Reaper. Um, that's not
Hmm.
that I didn't underestimate it, right? But like when I did it, I was kind of like, you know what? I've never actually eaten a raw habanero before. Maybe I should have like stepped up. And
Yeah.
then I was like, nah, that's not my nature. I just go 0 to 60 in a second. Like I'm there. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that I would not recommend anybody do it.
No.
Not as a
Yeah, that could
gag,
fuck
not as
you
a
up.
joke, not to prove anything. I mean, I guess I'm just not a pussy, but like that, it's just it's a harrowing experience. The next, like I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I ate it about like 5 or 6 p.m. and it was a little spicy in my mouth for like 20 minutes. But I drank some milk and I was okay. You know, I mean, it wore off, and then I was
Right.
fine. And then about 4 in the morning, my stomach cramped, and like it
Ooh.
cramped like Thanos stuck the Infinity Gauntlet up my ass and grabbed my stomach and just clenched, like just fucking clamped down on it. And I was like doubled over in pain, and I went into the bathroom, and like I was just sitting there it literally hurt. Like it felt like a hole was burning through my gut, and then I'm like, I start regretting like all of my life, like right
Hmm.
there on the like on the bathroom floor at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what the fuck did I do that for? I am so fucking stupid. Um, but
I
I
had
guess I
this really cool like experience the other day. So I have nieces, and they're like they're pretty young. They're like 8 to 10 ish. And then I have me. I'm like on the last edge of like I'm like just between like Zoomer and Millennial, and then I have my folks who are like in their 60s, right?
mhm.
And so I just I got done taking a shower upstairs, and I finish my shower. I get dressed. I walk out. And I see my nieces are playing on my old computer that I gave to them, and they're doing like they're modding Minecraft, but in like the most childish way possible. They're just adding like prettier colors and all this other stuff. And in the background, they're playing like Ariana Grande on speakers, on like Bluetooth speakers. And the one niece has like her tablet where she's drawing stuff. And I walk in and I'm just messing with them for a while. And I leave the room and I'm like, man, that's so awesome. And then I come downstairs to where my parents are, I shit you not, they're opening pickled peppers that they've had pickling over the last like 6 months, and they
Yeah.
open one of the jars and just start eating the peppers out of the jar, like it's like saturated in the juice. And I try one, and it immediately hits me like right in my jejunum, like I feel it in my solar plexus,
Right.
and that shit was so good, but it was so fucking hot, and we're just like jumping on our feet because it's so hot. And then I walk downstairs and I'm sipping water and I sit on my computer and I'm like, I just experienced like 80 years of generational difference in one staircase.
That's pretty sick.
Like
That's sick.
yeah, like
I like
between
that.
yeah, like that thought came to my head. I'm like, I just experienced like living in like the 1800s versus living in like the 22nd century with my it was so
And
funny.
and it's kind of it's even more metaphorical because like where you're at between millennial and Zoomer, you're just like you're caught like between those worlds
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you're not
It was
in
it was tight.
either.
Yeah, it was sick.
So yeah, like we actually to like going off that like uh we talked about that a bit in our first podcast, but not not a whole lot. Where when I was growing up, I thought millennial was like not talking about me. I didn't really pay attention to what people you always use it as like derogatory for all these things kids did. I didn't know I was like a millennial. Like I didn't know what it even meant. And I found out like I'm not even the oldest millennial. I'm like a mid millennial.
Yeah.
And I always think it's so weird how I don't really fit in with any of those groups because like who came before millennial? We hit this point, but I'll hit it again. Is like that the generation before us didn't use computers. They had them
Yeah.
and they were around, but they didn't really fuck with them like we did. And the generation after us mostly don't use computers. They use
Yeah.
computers as devices like phones and tablets and shit, but they don't sit at desktops and fuck like I've literally watched technology come out of nowhere, like be developed and then go into obsolescence in like 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
And
It's it's really weird that there was only one, not even a full generation, but like try to think about this. There was only one generation where the public library was actually useful for like
right.
schoolwork and shit. Because think
Right.
about it, like people would only go to the library if they needed like a specific novel or like a book. And then computers came around and everyone's like, "Oh hell yeah, I can go to the library and not have to pay for a home computer because my parents don't want to buy one or whatever." And now smartphones exist and the public library is now again just the place where weird people go and then people that want to have like book. I saw an article or something that was talking about like uh, in most parts of the country, public libraries are utilized more for free DVD rentals than they are for fucking books. And I
I
thought
could
that
see
was
that.
super tight because like the
Or
idea
homeless
that
bathrooms.
Blockbuster died so that the public library could just become a free version of it is just cool.
That I mean, even like playing off that, you remember, Netflix started in the like
Yes, yeah.
mail to order
Yeah, I
DVD
remember ordering
business.
ordering CDs off of Netflix for my brother. Yeah.
Right. You could get games and movies and they deliver them in that fucking red envelope. And that like there's whole people that don't know that that ever existed. Like that was
Yeah.
their original like at least a huge core part of their business model.
Hmm.
Um
And
it's like
Blockbuster did it too. I forgot what they called it. It was like some subscription service you had to pay for, and they started falling apart. I think when they tried to like change their business model.
right. Oh, it's just that shit was heading for obsolescence anyway. I mean, if you look at people don't even own physical media like in any capacity anymore.
Oh
Which
yeah, nowadays owning physical media makes you like a collector. Like, oh, you
right.
have like 30 DVDs. Do you collect DVDs? Like, no, man, I just like Gone in 60 Seconds. Like, what?
And
It's a tight flick.
you have 30 copies of Gone in 60 Seconds. It's just
Yeah, man, I like Judgment Night with Dennis Leary.
right.
Fuck off.
uh it's like I only own I like as a paranoid person like I always am like, well, if I can't get online, I can't access my Steam library. How the fuck would I play games or watch movies?
I just
Um,
had that problem yesterday, bro. So
right.
Steam was down for like a full 24 hours
Oh
almost. Like,
fuck that!
yeah,
I didn't even
yeah, like
know.
nobody
Like,
could log on. People were like fucking sending bomb threats and shit over the internet.
well,
It was crazy.
as they should, and that's
Yeah,
primarily what
100%.
the internet is for is bomb threats. But
Yeah.
yeah, like that's the. I mean, the whole thing is if you can't access a service anymore, you don't have anything. Like
Hmm.
there's value in having physical media, so you can still own your stuff and use it
Yeah.
when you want to.
Yeah.
Um, but even I've downsized. I got rid of almost anything that I'm not for sure like gonna maybe watch.
Yeah.
Like a strong for sure maybe.
Yeah.
Everything else, dude, I got rid of it. But
Hmm.
yeah, like it trips me out that these people don't even. There's like that whole like. There's an article making the rounds like you will own nothing and you will be happy about like basically like
It says
it's like a
says
legit like I don't know what it is like a Forbes or Business Times. It's like a legit publication puts this out and it's like prepping you for the future where you're where like you don't even own property anymore. Banks will just own it and rent to you. Your bank will be your, your landlord. They just
Yeah,
own.
that's
Why
like
not just own the property? So you won't even own property. You don't own anything. Everything you have is on lease from corporations. And they're saying this shit like it's a good thing. Like
that that statement made me think of like a cybernetic, like a Cylon version of Marie Kondo. Where she's just like, you will own nothing and you will be happy.
now
Your flesh does not spark joy.
fold your gray
Submit your
jumpsuit.
flesh. Yeah. Oh man. There's this game that I think you'd be interested in called Cruelty Squad. And it's a really, it's nearly impossible to describe it. It's the first like physical quality shitpost, I think. And rather than trying to explain the game to you, what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to go to like the Steam page, and I'm just gonna
Okay.
tell you what some of these reviews say for this game, okay?
Oh, these
So
are my
the top
favorite.
review, yeah, the top review says Cruelty Squad is what a great immersive sim sees before it dies. And that's a really good way to describe this game. So immersive sim, think like Deus Ex back from like the 90s where you can kind of interact with everything in the world, right?
Okay.
Um, like a more recent example would be like BioShock, right?
Okay.
And the game has like, it's so hard to explain. It's like the most, it's purposefully the most difficult to transcribe and understand UI of all time. It's also like everything is bright shapes and colors, and you can't really tell what's going on until you sort of just let your brain turn off and start playing the game. But then you start reading some of the dialogue, and it's like some of the most genius, laugh out loud, funny shit that I've ever seen in my life. Like your handler for each mission that you go on is this giant talking frog, and he tells you shit like the CEO of like pharmacokinetics needs to be shut down because he's making it so that the manned mission to Mercury is too safe, and the Lost Order thinks that the sacrifices should be higher to appease the dark gods of capitalism. And like the shit actually is said like in game. It's written out. It's so fucking funny.
That's I had to look it up real quick, and it does look like something that would pique my interest. It looks
It's
like
a game made for you. Yeah,
yeah.
100%. It's
They
it's super tight.
the Cruelty Squad is a tactical first-person shooter set in the hardcore gig economy of corporate liquidations.
Yeah, 100%. It's so sick.
We're heading for that. We're seriously heading for that fucking future. Like,
Gibson had it right with Neuromancer, but he just
right,
didn't expect like everyone to be self-aware, I think, is the problem.
right. I
That's the
think so.
only
Yeah,
like he had everything else down, but he just didn't think that everyone would be shitposting while they were living through this horrible hellscape.
right. Um, dude, holy fuck. Like I read an article today about Amazon is actually lobbying the federal government for changing the scheduling on marijuana. Actually, basically they want it descheduled, which would effectively legalize in some ways because it wouldn't be a controlled substance.
Okay.
Because they can't find enough workers to pass drug tests.
Oh, okay.
So now Amazon is playing the entire their angle is this disproportionately affects people of color, which may or may not actually be true, but Amazon isn't doing that out of benevolence to black people. They're
Yeah,
doing it because they can't find enough people to basically slave in those warehouses until they die.
right. I imagine it would be a lot easier to work a 16-hour shift as a fucking autonomous drone when you're just, like a little
Just
baked, so
right.
like where's the fucking harm in that?
You need it to get by. You go in those little whatever those suicide booths are they're installing inside of the Amazon places. They're
What do they call them
building
again? They're like they're like personal space capsules or
whatever
some
the
shit.
fuck they are. Like
There just happens to be a 9 millimeter handgun with
right.
one bullet inside of it.
You just go in and a fucking syringe sticks you automatically, and all of a sudden you feel better and go back to work. You don't know what the fuck is in it. It puts a little fucking microchip in you so they can like track your every move, and they're like, you pissed 0.25 seconds longer you were in the bathroom 0.25 seconds longer than your piss was coming out of you. Please report to HR immediately for re-education. And they call you up in there and the fucking tape your eyes open and make you watch Jeff Bezos give a speech like he's fucking Lex Luthor. Fucking disgusting. But that
Oh
we're
man.
heading towards that kind of hell where it's gonna be like the entire country will be owned by Amazon and Walmart, and like there'll
Yeah,
be
yeah, megacorps are like the problem is all of the relevant warnings are way too cool.
right.
Like
That
you read
is.
Neuromancer and you're like, man, this would suck, but it's so cool.
But I get
Like
blades
and
implanted in my arm. Like fuck
yeah,
yeah.
like it's way too cool. The problem is we're heading in that direction, but without any of the cool stuff. Like
None of the cool
we've
shit.
yeah, we've yet to see a flying car. Nobody has mantis scissor blade arms. No one is able to like jump over buildings. Like, but everyone is like suffering from depression and has government
Right.
sanctioned like mood controllers installed in them.
We yeah, we're at the point where cyberpunk dystopia is completely real and already here. We just didn't get any of the cool tech.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and any
it's
of the tech that does exist is just completely used to control us. It isn't in the hands uh of the people. And I think because if you look to like when Neuromancer was written and stuff, like you still had to be a hobbyist to use electronics,
oh yeah,
and so I think it was kind of assumed that there would always be the tinkerer or the hobbyist. But
yeah,
if you look at the prevalence of Apple devices, they've tried their damnedest to eliminate that out of people. The whole
yeah,
like it just works and you just get it and you use it and you just fucking turn it on and go. They've there's a whole this entire like generation coming up now that can like instinctively use these devices, like iPhones and iPads. But like I have seen, I am not shitting you, um, somebody go up to a desktop monitor and start touching it.
yeah.
This is someone who was like 19, 20 years old because they didn't know it wasn't like not every screen is a touch screen. They just
Mhm.
had no idea. And they've they don't even know how to use a keyboard and mouse. You think these fucking people are gonna be in the street hacking brain implants and shit? They
No,
can
yeah,
barely work their phones.
yeah, it's not gonna happen. Yeah, back in the '90s, if you wanted to, oh fuck, I would almost like even argue like the early 2000s. If you wanted to play video games on a computer, you
Right.
kind of had to learn at least the basics of like a programming language, because otherwise there
Oh
was
shit.
usually like it was pretty difficult to either launch the game or just to get it to run. And nowadays, like people refer to it as Google Foo, and I'm
Right.
very good at it. But all it is like troubleshooting. Like no
Right.
one knows how to troubleshoot anymore,
They don't
which is
follow
why
the
shit
basic
like Geek
steps.
Squad exists.
So
Like, go
I
ahead.
I work with a guy, right, who always tells this story about trying to play Wing Commander in the 90s and it
Yeah.
wouldn't fucking launch, and he had to do like custom dip switch, like physical switch settings on the sound card in his PC, like to get the shit
Yeah.
to run.
Yeah.
You know, like
Shit like
these
that.
kids, they'll never, they don't understand that kind of shit at all.
Yeah, like modding your games back in the day used to just be creating assets. Like you would actually go into a folder and just start typing in random inputs and
Right.
like making ASCII fucking like assets and shit to mod stuff and like no one will understand that shit. Like I made a Flash game for a school project when I was like 15 and I thought it was the coolest thing ever because I spent all of like between the age of 7 and 10 my most played video game was this fucking 2D stickman fighting game on like flash websites. They gave me trojans, but I thought it was the best thing of all time because there was
Elf
nothing like
bowling.
that for free, right? Yeah, exactly. And so when I made that shit I was like, damn, this is sick. And then I realized, oh, like no one's gonna know how to do this because you can just go play on your Xbox instead and it does
Right.
everything for you. That's good, I think, to some extent,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah it is.
the the leash of accessibility I think is a little too constrictive right now, and some people
Yes.
should need to like at least have a certain level of proficiency to be able to achieve the amount of sort of I think create or not even creative, but the amount of control I think that they have over their everyday electronics.
Well, yeah.
Because
So
yeah,
I'm not like I'm not total old man yelling at clouds, and I think a lot of kids coming up these days, they have a lot of things figured out that other generations didn't. So I'm not like shitting on them entirely, but I think there was always the assumption that for the last like two or three generations, each one like was like subsequently getting better at electronics and more proficient at it. And I think we've hit a reversal or like a standstill point. I don't
Yeah.
think the newer generation is better, and I would say in fact some ways worse because they have less exposure to things that aren't walled off Apple devices. They don't understand how to get software if it doesn't come from the iOS store. They don't understand how
Hmm.
to do anything that doesn't come like they don't understand email. They don't use email. You know, like that.
I think to some extent that's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy though, because the problem with having a generation that's really good at computers and then another generation that's really good at computers is that they're going to innovate to a level where they obviously for business purposes make it
Right.
easier for everyone to use computers. So I do think there's still a ton of like obviously there is because shit's still being innovated every day. Like California's number one export is innovation. That's why everyone fucking lives there because it's
Right.
like the economy is always booming because every day there's an app being made that's going to generate hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue for fucking no reason. But it's
Right.
because they're innovating. So I think it's the parents of kids that are like really interested in tech that are going to be like on that same level. And I think those parents just have to make a decision of like, okay, well, I like to mess around with computers when I was younger, and I helped make all this cool stuff. Do I want my kids to do that as well, or do I want them to focus more on like actual STEM stuff and shit like that?
Right.
Which like yeah, like the amount of science majors that I've talked to or like math majors and stuff that can't work their way around a fucking MacBook is crazy. I
Yep.
feel like it's just such an easy, useful like it's a tool that if you don't know how to take advantage of it will not only cost you actual money like in the long run, it'll also just like it'll take up your time because like the amount of time you spend on a tech support call for a weird fucking error code popping up on your computer as opposed to just googling that fucking error code and doing like
Hmm.
10 minutes of research on Tom's hardware. Like you can figure this shit out yourself for 99% of computer problems. It's not difficult. Like
Right.
yeah, but it is a little
Yeah.
bit of an old man yelling at clouds thing. You're kind of right.
Yeah. I mean, it does go like they're definitely gonna excel at certain things. Like there's more of a like an opportunity to be like a programmer these days. It's so
Hmm.
ingrained in our culture that it's taught at like every level of course. Like I think from middle school up. I know some
Hmm.
elementary schools have basic programming stuff now even,
Yeah.
which I did programming didn't even exist in my high school when I think there was like one elective C++ class.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't even a requirement or anything. So it was completely like foreign. You had to really want if you are in my age bracket and you had to want to do it to be exposed to it. You weren't
Yeah.
going to like pick it up on accident or like take one class and go, "Hey, I kind of like this." Like you would have had to actually seek it out to do it. And so you had more people who were interested, I think, in the actual technology,
Hmm.
where now you get people who do it because it's a good career and makes money. So they're not really passionate about it. They lack this aspect of it. They do it because like, oh, I can be a programmer and I can make $120,000 a year and I just do basic shit and they don't have to think even so in some
Yeah.
cases. Like I
I'm of the
know programmers
opinion
like
that
this.
yeah, I don't know. I've kind of battled with this for a long time because I really like computers and I like messing with them. I like building computers. I like software. Programming, I learned some Java when I was in high school and then I messed around with Python a little bit just on my own. And I never really got super into that, but I think I'm more like I know programming specifically, a lot of people say that it requires a different part of your brain to be efficient at it, like a very problem solving logical type of brain. And
Yeah, it's
I like being creative more. Like I
right.
write a lot and like my D&D and shit that I do. So I would rather kind of flex those muscles if I have
Right.
the option. But it's also to some extent like something that I've always kind of fought with is I feel like if I did find a career doing the thing that I love to do in my free time, I would stop enjoying that thing in my free time, and that kind of scares me. Like, like, like growing up, I was like, oh man, I want to be a pro gamer, right? And then I look at these dudes that are playing League of Legends for 16 hours a day, and I'm
Fuck
like, there's no
that.
fucking way these guys like playing this game at all. Period. Like, I'm sure some of them do because some people
Um,
are just built differently, but I can't do that for anything. Like, if I
s-
like something and I do it enough, I start hating it.
um,
So
I can give you my real world experience that I'm in that boat. Excuse me. Fuck. So I've always I grew up like wanting to be a hacker. Like that was like, oh, I'm gonna be a hacker. I saw like the original Ghost in the Shell. I saw the movie Hackers. I saw this. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm gonna do all this
mhm.
shit. And I did. I had a lot of fun doing that kind of stuff. I eventually get into a career doing it. I do fuck all when I get home now with computers. This current desktop that I just got, I bought it pre-built. And everyone's like, "You
Yeah,
didn't build it?" And I'm like, "You know why? Cuz I fucking work 10 hours a day. I don't want to come home and then like I don't want to troubleshoot my shit at home. I got to
yeah,
do that enough at work." Um
yeah.
so yeah, you totally will some people won't fall out of love with it. They love doing it for their job and they love doing it when they get home. I think it kind of
Yeah.
depends on your work environment and how hard it is too.
That's
Um
that's true. That probably plays a big part in it. I noticed there's one place where you don't see that too much, and it might be the work environment thing. Car guys. Like, you
yeah,
know how car people, they just like they live cars, like
right.
they want to be a mechanic or they want to work at an auto body shop or they want to work at a junkyard and then they get home and they're working on their own car in the meantime. Like
Right.
they never get sick of that shit. And I wonder what it is. Like I'm
Yeah,
too
I don't know.
fucking nerdy to want to learn how like an inline V6 works, but I'll
Right.
sit there and like I'll troubleshoot one error code that pops up in my Skyrim mod folder for like 6 hours just to find out what it is. And there's definitely some like just cultural difference there, but I wonder what it is about car people specifically that just stops them from like burning out because yeah, those guys are always, or at least maybe it's just a trope, but I always see like all my friends that are into cars, they would want to do it as a job if they had the opportunity, and then they would also do it at home too, like just because they fucking love working on cars. Maybe because
Yeah,
it's a physical thing too. Maybe
I
it's
think
like the
it's
physical. Yeah.
so I think there's a lot of overlap with car guys and computer hardware guys, which are few and far between these days.
Hmm.
There's not like uh, if you have something go bad on your motherboard, do you actually spend the time to like desolder the capacitors and test or and test out the like trace out the board and then solder in a new one, or do you spend $120 and buy a new fucking motherboard or whatever?
Right. Yeah.
Like you just buy a new one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's true.
those hardware guys though are dedicated to that shit. Like they live and breathe it. They love doing like the like tracing it out. They love finding what was wrong. They love replacing it. And they're like, dude, it only cost me 30 cents to fix this motherboard. And I'm like, yeah, and you spent 900 hours doing it though.
Yeah.
But I get it though.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah. No,
passion thing.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, that makes
it's
a whole lot of sense.
and I think yeah, I think when you get into other aspects of that, the passion's not really like general IT and stuff. I think a lot of that
Yeah,
is I
I
don't want
think
to
that's why the
say
arts is so like appealing for people, right? Like nowadays, it's not so much like I don't know. It's weird. Like I could go on a whole tangent about kids wanting to be like content creators because it's like you ask a kid like their number one job now, like as opposed to like 10 years ago. Like you ask
right.
someone like, "What's your like favorite job when you grow up?" It's like astronaut, doctor, superhero, right? Like boom, or like fireman. And now you ask them, and it's like YouTuber, Twitch streamer.
Yeah, I saw
And
that like
like I
reuters
could go on a whole
survey.
tangent about that, but something about the arts I think is cool that it kind of gets to dodge that that weird problem because since it is so creatively demanding, like let's say you want to be like an artist, right? If you
Right.
love painting and you love art and you turn it into a job, I feel like you won't really fall out of love with painting even though you have a financial constraint behind it now
Right.
because you basically just like you've set yourself a new goal is to like, okay, I want to make a painting or I want to make,
Right.
these specific commissions, and then I get to sell them and stuff like that. Obviously, there's some added pressure on there, but I don't think that's the same as just burning out on it entirely. Like deadlines will make anything more difficult, but it's almost in a good way sometimes.
Yeah, I think part of that is like it's extraordinarily hard to turn being an artist into an actual paying career.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so a lot of artists don't get to be, they don't actually get a career doing art. The
Hmm.
closest they get is some kind of like graphic designer,
Right.
or like they work in an office building and they do all of the graphics for the flyers, and shit. And
Yeah.
that like, and
Well,
when
not
they
just
go
like
home, they get
traditional
to
art, but I
paint.
mean like,
Right,
music,
right,
fucking like, there's
and
there's all sorts of
even
shit. Novelists, authors, right?
even like music. So like, if you don't get lucky to become a famous musician, the kind of music you end up doing is you're either, well, depends on your track, right? If you're orchestral or you for a career, you end up mostly trying to get in like doing background music for movies and TV, or doing scores, or working with producers who need string sounds. You don't
Mm,
really get to do like the rock star life and all that.
mm-hmm.
That's really few and far between. And I think if you do get into that mode, you will find people who burn out or don't love it. Um, you can, I think it just depends what you like, how much of it is really your life and how much of it you want to do forever. Like, as someone who made music, I just kind of found out it wasn't, it's the creative part I still do. I still love it. I just do it for myself. I don't put it out or do anything with it. But the everything around trying to make it your life and make it into like a the second you start talking about like CD sales, well, we don't talk about that at all anymore. But back then, we would talk about having to like press up CDs and sell them, and then it's like I need to sell this many to even break even, or I'm losing money and I'm broke as shit already, and I gotta pay this much for studio time, and then, you know. You'd get people like, do you ever bring T-shirts? We want to buy T-shirts, and like you look at what it costs to like make them, and you got to design them, and some people are all over that, but like for me, it was like it started becoming about everything but my creativity, which
Mm.
was writing songs. And I got, I was like, nah, fuck all this. I'm done. I kind of like I dropped out of that. Um,
Yeah.
it also
It's
didn't pay my bills. So I had bills to
yeah, there
pay.
are a few people that have kind of gone that path though, right? Where it's like you start out as like a fucking not like a side person, but like Sia is a good example. You know the artist Sia? She was like I think I can't remember if she was a writer or a no, not a producer. She was definitely like a writer and like a ghostwriter, I mean, and then like I think she collaborated with a lot of people uncredited early on in her career. I know she
All
was
right.
part of like an old British band or something, but then like out of nowhere she just blew the fuck up because she decided to like take stuff solo. And it was right around that time that like Lady Gaga got really big too. And I think that changed a lot specifically with like pop music. For anybody
Right.
listening, I'm a huge fucking I love pop music. It's like it's not my favorite, but I fucking love pop music. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just I fucking love pop. But she had this weird thing where her and Lady Gaga kind of transcended like the traditional pop star sort of career path where it's like, "Oh, you're attractive, oh, you can sing, oh, you can dance. Now you're a pop star. Congratulations," right?
Right.
Neither of them could really like dance and neither of them were like traditionally beautiful,
What you would
but they
in the
were just
media,
so
yeah.
good. Yeah,
Right.
they were just so good at what they did that they sort of got to skip those steps and just fucking make killer music.
That's so one thing you'll find is there's so much good shit out there that'll never see the light of day. That
Yeah,
I
100%.
mean, I this is something I'd like to talk about like with everybody, because I have some, I have a whole bunch of shit I can talk about with this kind of stuff. You ever hear about a guy, do you know who Bobby Raps is?
No.
Do you know who Spooky Black is? He had that
No.
song that blew up a couple years ago. like Without You or whatever. It was kind of memey. It's like a skinny white kid in a do rag, but then he sings and
Maybe,
he's
yeah,
dope.
maybe I remember that. I think
You've
so. Yeah.
you've probably seen that, and he's actually an artist by the name of Corbin now. But so anyway, this I believe they're from Twin Cities, Minneapolis area,
Hmm.
and um, they kind of blew up. They went viral, and Bobby Raps did this fucking like hamburger helper contest that like is actually fucking was really dope. And I don't know. So I'm actually was just a big fan. Like I was a fan of his music, and I liked him. And I don't know the whole story, and I might have parts wrong, and it's only things I've heard. But he he has like this new style, and people are kind of like shitting on it. But everything he does is like really well produced and really. Um, I think he actually wrote Starboy by the weekend. And
No shot, really?
yeah, I think he actually wrote it. And
That's crazy.
if you listen to his music, he looks I don't know how to describe it other than he's kind of looks like me. Like he's like just a white dude, like a blondish
Hmm.
reddish hair and beard and stuff. And I think people look at him like they look at his physicality and they're like, "Ah, oh, he's corny or whatever." And they don't really listen to him. But like lyrically, he's like really creative, just like really creative guy, and makes really
Yeah.
good music. I like it. I'm not shitting on him. I like his shit. I'm parroting what other people I've seen people like say, but I don't think
Yeah.
they know that I believe. Now this is where the real rumor. I'm pretty sure if he didn't write Starboy, he has at least a writing credit on there on the Weekend
Okay.
album. But I believe he also has a writing credit on a writing or a producing credit on a Kendrick album.
Ooh. Okay.
And I want to say I heard something with Drake too. But you'll never
Okay.
you don't people don't know who he is. But
No. Yeah.
he's like made these insane pop hits or he's had a hand in making them. He's just some dude from Minneapolis like came
Yeah.
out, made his own music. I don't know if somebody heard like how good his shit was. Like it was just
Hmm.
it's just super well produced and create like when you listen to his lyrics, you can see they're like a blend of that really creative underground style, but with like mainstream lyrics or terminology. Like I don't know a better way to say it. It just like seamlessly blends
Hmm.
everything, and so you can see how I could really see how he does have all those writing credits he's rumored to have
Hmm.
and connections.
Well, that's
Mm.
so like there's like two things that kind of want to sprout off that. One is like it's really cool, I think, how like you ask anyone that listens to music, and not I don't mean like they'll turn on the radio. Like there are some people that will say they listen to music, and you're like, oh, who's your favorite artist? And they're like, oh, and then they'll like scroll on their Spotify, and it like you see it's just like the top 40. I'm not saying that's
Right.
bad. Like I'm not gonna fucking shame anyone for listening to one thing or the other. But there are people that listen to music, and then there's people that will like actively try to find music that they like and listen to, and based off that, they'll try to find other shit. Like I love listening to music, and all I do if I'm in the mood is I'll just try to find shit that I've never heard of, some 500 subscribers YouTube band, and I'll just fucking play their whole discography and see if it's any good. And I think it's really cool that like there's so much music that's out there that's actually decent that you can ask anybody like that that has that
Mm-hmm.
same sort of mentality. Like, hey, who's some shit or like what's some shit that you know is a fucking banger, but no one knows about it, and they can give you something you've never heard before. Like the amount of, and that's why I get so mad when people say like, oh, rock died in the '80s, or oh, grunge died in the '90s, or like rap died in the, like yeah, there's the shit you hear, and like not many people like it as far as like the mumble rap and stuff goes, but
Right.
even that like mumble rap, I
Yeah.
think came into existence, and this kind of goes into my second topic. Music evolves based on like not just culture but also like the music that like came before it. So in like the
Right.
90s and early 2000s to some extent, rap music was like predominantly like very lyricism based, and that was partially due to like rap battles being so popular, right?
Right.
It was it was very lyrically kind of forward. Production and pace and like storytelling were highly valued, and so like no one wants to be like their fucking dad, right? So kids
Right.
growing up listen to that and they're like, okay, sure, but now I'm gonna make my own thing, and that's how like fucking like one of my favorite artists is uh the fucking, it's not really Suicide Boys, but like that whole kind of like
Oh,
I used to fucking hate it. Like I
I'm
used to despise it. But then I
dude,
started listening to it enough, and
that
like all
down
this
south
New
shit.
Orleans weird like mumblecore shit really like hits different. Like when you get into the mood to listen to
Um,
it.
there's a whole that whole fucking shit out of Florida. I think they're all out of Florida, like Shakewell, Puya,
Hmm.
um,
Yep. Yeah,
fucking
the SoundCloud dudes. Yeah. Yeah, like
Booby
SoundCloud
Ludavelli.
rap changed a lot of shit, and now
I
you're starting
fuck
to
with
see
that
it in the
shit
mainstream
heavy.
too.
I
Yeah.
I think that shit is better than almost anything I've ever heard. In fact, I put like Shakewell and like is like one of my favorite rappers I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because
so
they
I'm
do like yeah, it's like nothing you've heard. That's like a really good way to put it. It's fucking, it's super deep and heavy, but the lyricism is like easy enough to understand, and it's still sort of mainstream almost, but then the
right.
beats and everything behind it and just the whole like it's like dread almost, like the fucking feeling you
Yeah.
get from listening to a lot of these tracks. It's super sick.
Well, so I could talk about this. I could do a whole podcast dedicated to only this every week, because it was like this was my forte for a long time in life. I came up battling, and
Hmm.
I listened to a lot of shit, and I actually think there was kind of a dark age from the mid aughts to like 2010, 2012 ish. Like from 2003 or 4 to like 2010, music was really fucking shitty, in my
Oh, you're
opinion.
gonna make a lot of people mad
But
with that one.
I don't give a fuck. You're gonna tell me this is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot. You tell me that and them franchise boys is real music. Yo, I was on Lil Jon and the East Side Boys video, and okay, it's whatever. It's down south club music. I fuck with that part, right? It's okay for what it is. But I saw people in the comments like back when rap was real, back when this is that real shit. I'm like, dude, it's
Yeah,
fucking till the sweat dropped down my balls. It's not fucking artistry. It's what it is, but like,
yeah, it's just
come
hyper
on.
produced. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's like
So
what the fuck do people call it? Like fucking candy vomit, right? Like that's all it is.
right.
It's just like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
just overproduced.
and an insult that makes no sense to kids nowadays is we used to call this shit all ringtone rap, because it
Oh
was
yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah.
3.99 to get it as a ringtone on your phone, because you had to fucking
Yep.
text this fucking coked up frog from Europe or whatever, and then he'd like fucking send you, yeah, whatever. Don't even worry about it. But like anyway, like I think like especially specifically talking about rap, but other genres as well. Like the '90s was a pretty raw time
Hmm.
outside of pop music. And I would say even a lot of '90s pop is pretty good when you're not talking about NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, boy band shit,
Sure.
Britney Spears.
Yeah.
Like the rest of it, I fuck with Natalie and Brulia and all that. Like, well, sure.
Hmm.
Um, I just feel like in the 2000s, like everything was in a fucking dead zone. And as a underground battle rapper from that time period, even that underground rap is so painful to even go back and listen to. It's fucking terrible to me. It like hurts
Hmm.
my ears. There's so many people that are just trying hard to be different, to like be different, and they keep like
Yeah, for the sake of it. Yeah.
right, and like too many like corny white people trying to make everything into an art project and make it like
Hmm.
deeper than it is. Like
Oh,
I
that's
think
why
when you
yeah, fucking Macklemore is the number one target for that shit.
man,
That
fuck all
dude
that garbage.
made one huge viral
So
hit and then
hey,
decided like this is my canvas. I'm
I
going to talk
saw
about activism. Oh my god, I would
I
deck that
met
fucking dude right in his
I
little
met
pretty mouth.
him years before he was famous
Really?
at a show in in the Midwest, where he came and he opened for a local group here.
Oh,
He wasn't
okay.
famous. He didn't think he just and I was like, oh, what's up, dude? Whatever. But I mean, I met a lot of people like that. So like I have I have stories. I got to like freestyle with Idea once. I had a
Hmm.
show, I hung out with him, and I had uh, friends who were fairly established. There was a fairly established DJ MC duo from around here who were friends with like Atmosphere and a group called Hierospecs out of
Yeah,
St. Paul. So like
yeah,
I got to meet a lot of relatively famous people, I guess, a lot back then. But
yeah.
anyway, like I met him. So I don't have anything bad to say about him. Just like I always think it's interesting that like I see this guy blow up and like just a few years before I saw him like the dude like drove out to open up for local rappers in other cities. Like it was crazy actually. Like that
Yeah.
um it's
I
good for
also
him
think
on
it
his
has
blow
a
up. I just
lot
don't
to
like it.
do. Yeah, it's got a lot to do, I think, like, and this is kind of an obvious thing to say, but it has a lot to do with kind of where the music is coming from, too. I think a
Right.
big reason for a lot of the best rap ever to be made coming out of New York and Los Angeles in the 90s
Oh
is
shit.
because of the shit that was happening in the 90s. Like, the fucking the drug war like had just basically gotten
Right.
into like its full throttle. The fucking LA riots, fucking the stop and frisk shit in New York. Like, dude, people don't realize it, and I don't even like. I wasn't there, but you go back and you watch like documentary footage. New York in the 90s past 10 p.m. was like
Oh,
a
you
crime
were
zone. Like
right.
it was a war zone. Like it was legit like you're dropping in Verdansk. Like you have no idea what the fuck is happening. There's gunshots 24/7. People are getting fucking mugged and robbed. No one's going out. Like that shit was and I mean, for all things I think pressure makes diamonds, especially when it's a cultural type of pressure.
Right.
You're going to get people that speak out in their way, and it just happened to be that the people that were targeted and the people that made it out of that happened to be some fucking insane lyricists who made these
Right.
insane like soliloquies essentially about all the horrible shit that was happening.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's something else. Before I get into it, I just have to make a correction. To I had to look it up quick. What I found online really quick. This is from the Star Tribune, which is a Minneapolis newspaper. That Bobby Raps has a production credit on the song "Sidewalks" on Starboy by The Weekend.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Just want to make sure
Gotcha.
I
Yeah.
I
That's
still
still
heard that
insane
he
though. I
has.
mean, he's
I
yeah.
still heard he has like ghostwriting credits on, but whatever. That's all rumor.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. So uh, there's another aspect too with rap specifically where until sometime in the mid to late '90s, you had to have your own flow.
Yes.
If you sounded like another rapper, people shit all over you.
Yeah,
But
you were dick eating. Yeah.
right, but nowadays, like Migos comes out and they do that. I don't know what you call that flow pattern. Um,
Just
it's
ad libs and just
there's like
yelling.
a well that like that's
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But like they have like a there's some kind of musical scale term for what you call that, like 1/3 or something rap
Hmm.
style. But you have someone like Drake who just copies it, and millions of people are like okay with that. In the '90s, that had got him shot at a record at like a music award show
Yeah.
for doing shit like that. That would have got him fucking Suge Knight would have hung him off a balcony for that. But
Yeah, Rihanna would have stabbed him 8 times and left him.
right. But nowadays it's like no, you can do whatever the fuck you want. There's like no repercussions. Nobody
And
you
I
don't get
think
killed in inter
that
music beef.
yeah, that too is a result of the same thing that happens to any form of entertainment that gets really popular. Because at the end of the day, art, if it's good enough, becomes entertainment, right?
Well, I
Like you
saw
can
a
make the most yeah, like you can make the most horrible, sad, dramatic story of all time, but if the prose is good enough and if the characters are like well written and everything lands, it'll be a fucking New York Times bestseller. It doesn't matter what the fucking subject matter is. So rap was made as this like deeply personal kind of, and I'm generalizing to a pretty extreme degree here, but you kind of follow what I'm saying.
right.
It was like an actual battle against the state of things.
Right.
But because of how successful it was, it then got homogenized into the shit that you hear now.
Even if you say it was just party music at the onset, it was still like a rebellion against the state
Oh
of
yeah,
things. Like,
yeah,
and
100%. And I'm not. Yeah, I mean that's.
yeah,
I don't even
you're
think
right.
you
Like,
can go back and say like fucking. And this is where I'm gonna show my age a little bit because I'm not very familiar with like the 70s and 80s, but like that rap music, like the block party shit, that's a
right,
totally different beast from like NWA and Tupac and
right,
Nas and Biggie, right? Like they are like other than the fact that they're mostly percussion based lyricism, it's
right.
completely different subject matter. Like
Well,
one is about having a good time with your boys, the other one's about killing cops. Like
so
it's a totally different story.
so how, like, do you, here's a good question actually to ponder, is like, do you want to subdivide rap music or not? And why I bring this up is, if you look at like metalheads, like people into metal,
Mhm.
what a fucking disastrous clusterfuck that is.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, is it hard metal, speed metal, thrash metal, doom metal, sludge metal? You know what I mean? Like, there's like
Alternative.
9
Yeah.
trillion genres of metal, and most of them are the same-ish.
Hmm.
They're not really
Yeah.
that unique. Or And people, particularly white people, keep trying to do that with rap. And
Hmm.
I saw an article today from Vice, which I refused to click on, but the headline was talking about some rap group, and it's like the first new post rap group. So they're already declaring post rap. You know, like you had post punk and like, who
Yeah.
the fuck are
Postmodern.
you to
Yeah.
declare post rap? Like, shut the fuck up. People are still rapping. Like,
Yeah.
I actually don't really divide it out into, like, I don't call it cloud rap, mumble rap. It's all just rap. Um, even for me, the distinction between mainstream and underground is generally a record contract and
Yes.
exposure.
Yeah.
It's not,
A
as
lot of
doesn't
people don't
anything to do with
understand that, but
style.
yeah,
If you
that's true.
people only People don't put in effort to seek things out generally. They only
Yeah.
hear what is fed to them.
Hmm.
So anything would be popular if it was fed to people, because you'll
Hmm.
find enough people that like it. It
Hmm.
doesn't really matter. It won't sell. You might not sell as much as someone else, but you would still do fine. If they put you on
Yeah.
MTV, you would build a fan base. Well, not anymore, but when MTV was the de facto way of getting out there, or like the
Sure.
radio. Now, if it's now you need to go viral on TikTok or YouTube or something. But um, like,
To answer your question about whether you should divide it, I think it's a matter of context. If I'm speaking to someone for the first time, and like let's just say we're hanging out or whatever, and they're like, "What kind of music do you listen to?" I'll be like, "Oh, I pretty much listen to anything." And like, "Oh, do you like metal?" I'll generally say yes because I like a lot of different kinds of metal.
right,
But then they'll say like, "Oh, yeah, I'm really into Metallica and Saint Anger is my favorite album of all time." And that's when I splash the drink in their face
right.
and walk away, right?
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I get it.
like if I'm talking to someone and I've known them for a while and they're like, "What kind of music do you like?" I'm like, "Oh, I like progressive metal." And they're like, "Oh, you mean like Opeth and Tool?" I'm like, "Yes, exactly." Because there is a distinction between Metallica and something like Tool. The same way that there's a distinction between like, fucking yeah, like Nas
Right.
and fucking Lil Jon. So, whether or not there needs to be a divide, I don't think you should have to walk into a record store, which also don't exist anymore. But let's put it this way. You shouldn't have to walk, or not walk, but you shouldn't have to open up iTunes and be a fucking
Here.
anthropologist to be able to
Right.
find like what kind of music you like. You
I'm
should be
gonna.
able to go to rap and just sort by most popular and listen to 30 different types of rap. That's good. But I also
Yeah.
think it's good that the people that are really into it are able to pinpoint what they like about certain things. Like for me specifically, as I hope is clear, I really value like good production, good lyricism, good storytelling, good flow. Basically in that order. Like if the production sucks, I don't really care how good the song is. You may as well just go a cappella at that point and it's listenable, but at that point you're just storytelling and I don't reread books. So if the
Right.
production isn't good, then it kind of takes a step down just no matter what. But if the production's good, then I look at lyricism. If the lyricism isn't the point, I'm fucking like I'm able to discern whether or not you're going toward like for that or not. And there's all sorts of other shit, like the economy of a track. Like if something's 7 minutes long and it's okay, that's not as good as something that's 3 minutes long and okay to me. Because if you're
Right.
just taking up 7 minutes on a track for no reason, why shouldn't I just listen to this other one that's just as good that's 3 minutes long? Now, if it's 7 minutes and it's a fucking banger and you justify it being 7 minutes long, that's a whole different story. Like one of my favorite rap songs of all time is Mural by Lupe Fiasco. There's no
Mhm.
chorus. There is no there's no hook, there's no samples, there's no ad libs. It's just 7 or 8 minutes, I think, of some of the most eloquent, masterful lyricism I've ever heard behind an insanely good production beat. If you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend it. And I usually don't say this because it's pretty pretentious, but if you listen to it and you're like, okay, that was okay, but you don't understand why I like it so much, there's a YouTube video you can watch that not only reads out the lyrics to you, but will explain the references within the music to you as you're watching it. And that's when you kind of start to open up like, holy shit, this dude put together like 164 bars.
Right.
And all of them kind of tie into each other or into other like subject matters one way or another.
So
Like,
I'm a
say a
little
lot
out
of shit
of.
about Lupe, he's kind of whack now,
Oh,
but
I was literally just gonna ask you. I was gonna say I'm out of touch. So do people still fuck with Lupe Fiasco? I know he's like a
here's the
fucking
thing.
wannabe
I
Ronin now. Like he's out doing like sword practice or
Not
some
only
shit on
that, he's
Twitter.
doing this weird thing where like he's really trying to get into reggae and he's doing this weird Jamaican thing and now he raps like he's Jamaican. It's
Hey,
cool, it's fine, it's whatever. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's kind
hey.
of corny. Like I I think Tetsuo in Youth was probably my favorite album of his, and after that it's kind of downhill. Um, but yeah, I mean it's it's personal preference. That's one thing I'm kind of weird about is if I like an artist, I'll generally make the distinction of like, oh, I do like this album, but then I kind of like the rest of it just the same, unless we get into a really deep topic like this, because at some point you're just kind of fucking you're like picking cherries out of your salad. Like I like the guy and I like his music. That doesn't mean I have to, rate each song
Right.
individually. But yeah,
I
he's kind of whack.
I actually people, I don't, as the kids say, stan. I don't stan anyone, which is funny cuz, to get
No,
off
I don't
topic.
either. Yeah.
I don't think these kids even know what fucking Eminem song that comes from. But
Yeah.
uh the I there's artists I respect and will always check what they do, but there's nobody I give a pass to where I'm like every album they put as gold. And
Hmm.
sometimes with friends that's like they're like, "What? You didn't like it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't like it." But who's your favorite rapper? I'm like, but I didn't like his last album." Like I don't
Hmm.
have to like I can rate everything for what it is.
Yeah.
Um
The
and I
the
don't
closest thing
hate,
I think I
but
can come to with that, as far as like they get a pass, is probably Opeth and Tool. I guess Tool as well. But Tool is weird because they've definitely evolved in a weird way. And this newest album is probably my favorite of theirs, actually, strangely enough. Like after enough listens. But Opeth, genuinely, I don't think has ever made a song on my personal scale that's under like an 8 out of 10. Like it's kind of insane.
um
And then there's other shit that I just like listening to, like Sabaton, Amon Amarth.
I
Uh,
love Amon Amarth. I really wanted to see
yeah,
him
fucking
live.
like power metal though is really hard to fuck up. Like that's the thing
Right.
about power metal. As long as you have enough guitar and enough drums behind whatever battle you're talking about, I'm in.
Right.
Like I'm all in. It's hard to fuck up power metal.
So for rap music specifically, like I I get making distinctive categories because it describes, battle rap, boom bap. Those kind of things are fine. But why I don't, it's this is a personal reason, is when you hang around with, when you're a performing musician and you're performing with other musicians who are also, we're all trying to get on, right? We're all
Hmm.
trying to get noticed, get respect. Um, you have this group of people who are really like, oh, I'm underground for life. I'm hardcore. Like they draw this battle like line, right?
Hmm.
Like what we do is intrinsically more artistic than what someone else does.
Yeah.
If you're talking about highly manufactured pop music, sure, but actually it's just a method of, it's a lot of it is luck and timing,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they just got famous because they they're not always necessarily more skilled. They got lucky too. but they're not less skilled because they're famous. Like one of my favorite rappers of all time is DMX forever.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And
Rest in peace. The
like
fucking Lord.
dudes went platinum multiple times in a year, and he's one of my
Yeah.
favorite rappers of all time. So I always like those people who really made that, like, he's got to be underground. Like, it always kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. Like, you don't like real rap then. You just like, because I don't know a nicer way to say it than it's 99% always white people doing that shit. And why I don't like categorizing things as cloud rap or mumble rap, because it's almost always used in a derogatory fashion. Like, oh, you're
I
just a
think white
mumble
people
rapper.
just have too much free time on their hands.
Oh yeah, so that's my thing
Two
with
white people on
subdividing
a podcast.
genre. But it's like it's my thing about why I don't like the subdividing of genre, because I don't think somebody like Migos goes into like, I'm gonna make mumble rap this new genre and I'm gonna create this. They just rap, and they rap how they wanted
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And then it's other people that have to make this distinction to explain it. But the most artists, I don't think, go into it like that. They're
No,
trying
absolutely not.
they
Yeah.
might be trying to show you something new, but they're not like, I'm gonna fucking make an entire new genre of music. Like,
Yeah.
there are people like that, but most rappers are just trying to rap and get on.
Yeah, if you really want to fall into that pit of like subdivision, EDM is
Oh yeah. Oh, I know all
yeah.
that. I
And
was around for
I'm
like people
uh
arguing about drum and bass versus jungle versus the like original dubstep, not the bro step stuff. Like,
yeah.
I remember seeing those arguments in the 90s on like BBSs and
Yeah.
forums and stuff. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Because I hang out
But
on like
like
DJ stuff.
but those at least you can kind of, and I'm sure it's kind of the same way for like metal versus progressive, but I'm sure there's musical terminology behind it. But the beauty of EDM is like the difference between drum and bass and dubstep doesn't have anything to do with the subject matter, because there is no subject matter. It's just what tempo your song is at.
Right.
Like drum and bass is traditionally, I believe it's 120 beats per minute, right? And then something like
Something like that.
dubstep might be a little bit slower, whereas something like house might be a little bit, like slower still. But then you get into people that are like, oh yeah, I don't like house music. Big house though, that's my shit. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm
Yeah, but see,
into
I only
Manor,
fuck
and
with
I also
trance
like the
house.
States. Yeah, I only fuck with Penthouse.
Yeah, I only.
I like safe house music. I don't know
Yeah,
about
I was
you.
into Doghouse for quite a while.
Yeah,
You probably never
yeah.
really listened to that genre. It came out of
You probably
fucking
haven't heard of it, but
Bangladesh.
Panic Room is my shit.
Yeah,
I really
like
like Panic Room.
I was really into that deep core melodic trance. Um, I was
I like
actually into
Underdark
Angel
music.
Wings siren music.
Yeah, yeah, Underdark
Yeah.
music. Menzo Berenzin makes it. It's tight.
Yeah, like in the last few years there was like these whole like meme internet movements to make new, I can't even remember them all, Witch House
No,
and
they're
stuff like
so
that. Like,
stupid. Yeah,
they're trying to
it's
make
so
these
fucking
new
funny.
genres, and they're nothing new under the sun. Like, you just stop. Just make
Do
your
you
music and
remember? So they call it industrial rock now, I think at least. But there used to be this genre that doesn't really, and I could be wrong because I haven't listened to it in a while, so maybe there is still some movement. But do you remember when there was a type of music called aggro?
I'm not familiar with that.
So there's a so there was an old website called Agro FM or Agro.fm that was like Spotify or Pandora kind of, but it just
Okay.
played like really heavy industrial, both metal and rap. The idea was that it wasn't based necessarily on like the instruments or the subject matter. It was just based on like the intensity of the music.
So,
So the best way I can kind of describe it is like the original John Wick soundtrack, where it's
um
like music to kill people to. That was
it's
like
weird you
aggro.
say that. I once went on a date with a girl, and they asked what kind of music I liked, and I said anything aggressive. Doesn't matter if it's
Yes.
rap, metal, or rock. Like,
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
just ultra
that's pretty much what
violence.
aggro music used to be.
That's kind of
And
weird.
it still is, but I think they have like a different word for it now. But aggro FM used to be my shit. It shut down a few years ago, I think. Maybe it's under a different holder now, but the original guys shut it down a while ago.
That's uh that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I never knew that was a thing.
Yeah.
Um That it would make sense to me because I have described that too. Because I mean, especially if you're into gym culture and working out, like
Yeah.
aggressive music just gives you that edge sometimes. Like,
Or like, yeah, you're driving and you're like, man, I really want to get to where I'm going twice as fast as I'm supposed to. Let's put
right,
something on. Like that's that type of music. I
right.
love that shit.
I fucking yeah. This I loved so much of that stuff. I got really into fuck. What would you even call this stuff? Like new wave retro, I guess
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
people call it.
Yeah.
But there's all
Fuck, what do they call it? It's like Dream Wave or uh
yeah, dreamwave,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and fuck, what is it called? Like that whole like Carpenter Brute or whatever, however you say his
Yeah,
name.
yeah. Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. That really,
Outrider, I think is another term people used
yep.
for it or something like that. Yeah.
So yeah, um, I got
Yeah, that
really
stuff's
into
good.
that stuff in the last
Uh-huh.
few years.
I remember one of my friends in high school. We were uh he was driving and I was like, "Yo, pass me the aux." And no, that was back when I still had an MP3 player. And I played this one song called Schadenfreude by the M Machine. And
Okay.
if no one's listened to it, take a quick listen. It's kind of long, but just give it like a couple minutes. It like if you're playing that song in the car, I promise you, doesn't matter who's driving. It could be fucking George Soros. You're gonna go 90 miles per hour. So we're in a residential area, and I'm like, just listen to this. And I turn the speakers up, and it starts real quiet, but you can feel like something's building. And he was like going through this residential area, and I don't even want to say the bass drops, but the bass definitely fucking dropped and everything became retarded. Like he was speeding, I was screaming out the window, throwing my cigarette at people's houses, and like just like there's music that just makes you go ape shit, and I fucking
Right.
love it. It's so fun.
Yeah, I'm on that side, where they say like music can't cause violence, movies can't cause violence and all that. I agree that it always takes a person to do it, but I do believe there is something to like we're designed to respond to certain rhythms and frequencies and we do.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
there
yeah. The synapses start firing, 100%.
right. Yeah. I mean there is something to it. Like
That's
I
why, like, you know what's
actually
really weird? The guy that shot up, well, fuck, what's his name? Remember that guy from like I want to say it was Sweden or maybe like Norway or
it was
something?
Norway, I
They
think,
killed like
right?
yeah, they killed a bunch of kids on like a weird island
Like an
school
island thing. Yeah, I
camp
think it
thing.
was in Norway. Yeah.
He listened to that Lux Aeterna song the whole time, the song from Lord of the Rings that's like super orchestral. And I'm like, bro, you could have thrown like yeah, like Carpenter Brute on and easily tripled your KDA.
Doom
Like
soundtrack.
yeah, yeah, just yeah, put on the fucking Doom soundtrack. Fuck, listen to MF Doom or fucking Run the Jewels, and he would have killed like triple the amount of people. Instead, he's like listening to Mozart pop off. I'm like, fair enough, but come on,
There's
man.
I bet there's a tactic in that for keeping your your adrenaline spikes.
Oh,
You need
maybe.
to get
Yeah.
something to calm you back down so you're not shaking.
Yeah, yeah, he was like
Um
edging kind of.
so yeah, he was kind of like he had a natural high from what he was doing, so he needed to come back down.
Yeah.
Um so here's actually something I don't know that I've even ever publicly said this. When I was when I lost weight and I was working out, I had this whole thing in my head. I didn't hear this anywhere. Um, I just felt like I wasn't taking caffeine. I wasn't using anything. So I also didn't want to use aggressive music when I worked out. So I
Okay.
only listened to these like nature sound and Zen meditation tracks when I lifted
That
weights because
that had to have done something.
I didn't want any like I didn't want my aggression to come out from music. I wanted to be when I lifted a weight, I wanted to be in absolute control of it. And so that's something I did. Um I naturally did. So I can totally understand like why you might actually want to go to something peaceful just to stay in the zone
Mhm.
and when you're committing mass murder and and not and not go harder because you might make a mistake or you might overextend yourself in a rush. You
Do
know,
you
like
think the Russians would have stood a chance in World War II if the Russian national anthem didn't go that hard?
uh, I don't know. They needed that. That shit
They needed that,
bangs.
right?
That
That's what
shit
I'm thinking.
slaps.
That
Right.
shit, the fact that you could listen to just a bunch of dudes yelling behind some trumpets and fanfare like
Right.
80 years later and it still fucking bangs like no tomorrow, man. Holy
Right.
shit. And like even some of the shit coming out of not the Taliban, but what was that? Oh yeah, the Pakistan versus Israel shit. Some of the fucking Hamas songs, bro. I don't get it, man. These dudes, I thought it was fucking what's the fucking term? What's the term? I'm trying not to say
Propaganda.
Kumar because it's definitely not
Oh,
Kumar.
Kumar.
It's not Harold and Kumar.
uh,
Uh, uh, I
Harold
thought
and
they had
Kumar go to
something
the
in like
Lebanese
their
White
religion
Castle.
saying that it was haram, rather, yeah,
Oh,
haram
haram. Okay.
to like use instruments. They must have found a loophole because some of this shit is like I swear to you, it's better than like Nickelback, dude. Like
Yeah.
it's so fucking good, man. Like they have this one song talking about the soldiers arriving at the gates, and it legit feels like I'm there with them. I'm like, oh, let's fucking go.
That's the best way to make propaganda, dude, is to make it with a
Oh yeah,
rhythm.
100%. Yeah, man,
So,
you gotta tug at people's
okay,
fucking strings, bro.
this is actually something I wanted to get into in another podcast, but music, since we're kind of on this subject, I want to talk about like mind control, like how people can really be controlled,
Hmm.
and what I figured out myself. Um, when you rap a message, I don't mean necessarily literally rap like rapping, but like rap like a gift. When you put whatever you want to say into an artistic package, you can see literally how people will respond differently. So,
Sure.
like, what I mean is, if I just like, I'm not actually saying this, I'm just saying if somebody was to say, like, we
Yeah, yeah,
should
yeah. Okay.
suicide bomb the governor's mansion,
Right.
um, like, doesn't sound good. People think you're a weirdo, right?
Hmm.
They're like, oh, you're fucking crazy. But like, what I found when I made, like, cause I used to do things like that when I was in school, and people would think I'm weird, or they'd report me to the police or whatever. You know, like fucking lame. But I found when you say horrible shit in music, people love it. They love it.
Yes.
When you put it to a
Yeah.
beat. Like I said before with the Little John stuff, you can take these ultra like kind of like feminist girls and then you turn that shit on in the club and they're dancing and the lyrics are literally lick sweat off my balls. And
Yeah.
they're like they love it.
Hmm.
So like if I was like, for example, like what, like okay, if I suicide bomb a governor's mansion, so if I don't have a beat, you know, but like if I had a beat, you could be like, yo, oh yeah, yeah, dude, hit me with the beat, just hit me with that. Okay, all right. It's a call to action. Words alone never gain traction. Suicide bomb governors' mansions. Like just do like that. And all of a sudden people like nod their head and they're like, oh shit, yeah, he's
Oh
spitting real
shit.
shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Suicide. Okay, I see where he's going. I do that. Yeah. Strap me up.
I haven't done that in so long.
It's weird to flex those muscles.
Right.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, not even musically, I think, but when here's the thing. Public speaking, I think, is probably more popular than it's ever been, and I think a large majority of it is like how many like okay, people talk about how college is like impossible to fucking get into because of how expensive it is. There is more
Hmm.
college students now than there ever has been in the history of the world.
Right.
So I think the amount of people that are educated and are seeking higher education has led to public speaking become such a like phenomenon to where there's more public speakers now than there ever has been, except maybe like, you know, at the height of the fucking Roman Empire or not Roman Empire, but at the height of like you know Sophocles and
Right.
fucking and like all those dudes, right?
Right.
Uh, so there is something to be said about being able to just take your words and fine tune them into a very specific message and then kind of fork other things into that and then basically offering it as a product. Like
Right.
where you are just saying things to people. But all of a sudden, like if you were to sit down and say like, fuck, I don't know. I'll take Jordan Peterson as an example, just because he's an easy target. That
Right.
dude was just saying pretty common sense shit, like, hey, if you feel like everything in your life is disorganized and everything is going wrong, start with the basics. Clean your room.
Right.
Make your bed. All sorts of just like silly shit. But people were like, wow, he's fucking right. I feel better. Well, yeah, because certain synapses fire. Like, I can't remember who was saying this. It might have been you. It might have been something I was listening to. But if you make a checklist of things you have to do, like physically write things down on a checklist, it might have been
Mhm.
Joe Rogan actually. But if you physically write things down on a checklist and then you finish something on your checklist and you scratch it off, that sends something to your primal ape brain that basically says like, "Oh, I've now completed this task." So, yeah, of course, completing any minor task will make you feel good because that's just how our brains are wired. We are
Right.
risk versus reward creatures at heart. So, the idea that like this dude can get up on stage and speak to 1,000 people and just say common sense shit and they're lauding him as like the
Like
first
this,
modern philosopher.
calling him father.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Right.
I think a big portion of that power comes from the fact that he is talking to 1,000 people at a time and everyone is listening. That's
Right.
so difficult to achieve with anything that isn't like extremely like extremist. Like
Right.
it's either super crazy music or super crazy politics, one way or the other, that no one is just used to having someone sit down and be like, hey, here's some common sense. And I'm going to lay it out in a very easy to understand, but also like persuasive way. And then people hear that and they're like, oh shit, this guy's onto something. Well, yeah, you fucking knew that. You just needed to be reminded of it. That's all it
Right.
is. Um,
People
and then you
love
go on
things
your
that.
daughter's all meat diet and nearly die from
Right.
some horrible fucking disease, right? So
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
the path of man.
so
But
I think he's
yeah.
a really intelligent guy, and I like things he say, but his personal life is his personal life, and I don't know what the fuck's going on there.
Oh,
Um.
it's a
Right.
nightmare. It is. Yeah,
Whatever the
that
fuck's
family
wrong with
is
him, but
fucking
like,
doomed.
yeah, nuts. But whatever, they're probably being gang stalked and everything, so who knows? But
Yeah, yeah, it's a psyop.
like when you start talking about that kind of stuff, like I see we have like a I don't think it's any different than it's ever been, but there's a lot of like worship of these political pundits right now, or people who
Hmm.
get roped into this kind of stuff. And you know who
Hmm.
I can't stand is fucking Ben Shapiro. Um, I don't know, I don't know much about him. I can't stand to listen to him for more than 5 minutes.
Okay.
The dude just talks like a mile a minute, and he just talks really fast and tries to make these points like this. And it doesn't really matter how intelligent he is because you couldn't get a word in edgewise. I mean, obviously
Sure.
that includes the existence of a God. You couldn't argue that there isn't because there's good in the world. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm not down with that kind of. I'm not saying he's not intelligent. I mean, he's probably. I'm sure. I'm 100% sure he's smarter than me. I just. I can't. Even if I agree with him, I don't like him. I don't like that
Hmm.
kind of. I see what that kind of like that method of speaking. That's like a coach debate method of speaking. You know, where like
Yes.
everything has to
Yeah.
be a. It's
Yeah.
not like a normal human conversation. Like
I also don't like Ben Shapiro, but I have to say, if that dude took off the yarmulke and got into like an underground basement in 1997, he might be the greatest. Like he might be the first Eminem. That dude would
maybe.
make maybe one of the greatest battle rappers of all time. Because here's the thing, I don't really listen to him, but I'm like I pretty much listen to anything that he's in if it's someone else that I like. So there's a lot of podcasts I listen to like Pod Save America and Joe Rogan and all this other stuff. And I don't listen to them like 24/7, but I always know like, oh shit, these two don't like each other. This might be funny, and I'll listen to it. You're right. The guy is smart. He's also very aware of everything he says. And yeah, he's like a. I'm pretty sure he's like a professionally or formally trained like debater. Like he's a master debater. He's a
Right,
masturbator.
a masturbator,
But yeah, but
and his
there
sister
is
has big
certain
titties.
things that I just like. This is gonna sound so bad. Like you ever think about whether you want to say something or not? He
Yes.
might be the sole reason why people still don't like Jews because that guy.
No, dude. I can tell you, there's more reasons.
Well, I'm sure.
There's
Yeah, I'm
more
sure
reasons
there is.
than that.
But that guy is so Jewish that everything he says is just coded in like, oh man, it's so gross. Like he'll specifically say like, yeah, so let's say you're walking down the street and you pass by a synagogue, right? And then you see all this horrible stuff happening. And it's like, okay, like he's literally doing everything he can to try to push his little like, oh, my religion's being so badmouth for the last 20 years. I
Right.
don't rule Hollywood. I definitely don't own every banking establishment. Like
Every newspaper
it's so
corporation,
gross. It's
every
so fucking gross, man.
right.
Like that's the one thing I can't stand about that dude. I'm not specifically saying that the Jewish religion is inherently corrupt or Jews are bad people, but I am saying that it's not a fucking coincidence that 95% of the ruling class in this country and in most countries prior to this, most empires prior to this, got their funding from Jewish financial institutions. That's
Right.
just it's a pattern. I'm just pointing out patterns.
So I actually was screenshotting comments on Instagram the other day because I saw the same comment on a whole bunch of different meme page posts that didn't have anything anti-Semitic in them. There was a lot of posts that were anti-banking and a lot like anti-Federal Reserve. I was looking at like a lot of that kind of stuff. And in every post, there was a comment that almost verbatim said, "Let's cool it on the anti-Semitism." And I didn't even see any. So I just thought it was weird. There's definitely like
We
some
call
like
that a self-report.
there's a there's definitely some weird psyop going on right now because I think they don't. When I say they, I definitely mean uh, the dreidel adept. Um, they know that they hold the majority of media power in the
Yeah.
country, but they don't like it that other people know that.
Yes.
And they
Yeah.
consider it the mere fact that I'm even saying it and saying it like this means like there is like a war on us even knowing that. They don't want
Mhm.
you to know. If I said like, oh, Norwegian people owned every TV station in the country, like nobody's gonna care.
Yeah.
Nobody would do anything about that. So why is it, And then they would. It's a lot to get into, but there. I'm not even necessarily saying it's nefarious, other than some form of nepotism. Like someone got rich and put his cousin in, who put his cousin in, who put his like. I'm not even saying it's anything worse than that, but
The
that it is
Yeah,
and
the
it
weird thing you're
exists.
talking about where people get mad about it is uh I don't know. I think a large portion of it is virtue signaling, people being
Very
offended on other people's behalves, which
right.
honestly, like if you're gonna pick someone to stand in front of bullets for, the Jews are definitely somewhere far, far down the list. Like maybe
Schindlers.
possibly the least oppressed people. I say the second oppressed with air quotes. Maybe possibly the least oppressed people of all time that swear that they are oppressed.
Right.
Just
Um.
because the one place that you called home 50,000 fucking years ago or whatever isn't yours anymore does not make up for the fact that, like I said, you rule 95% of financial institutions in the known fucking planet. Like commerce is not affected. Like it's just like one small thing you lost does not make up for the other billions of things that you won. Now, on the other end of it, there are just regular, normal Jewish folks, and this is not pointed at them. If you are not a multimillionaire, this conversation is not aimed against you, that
Right.
just want to practice their fucking faith and be left alone. I feel for those people because, look, like my dad's Muslim. I get it. It sucks. Just like fucking even being adjacent to that shit will fuck you up. But you have to understand that at some point, thick skin needs to come into play or you won't make it anywhere. Like, if you can't take a fucking joke being thrown at your, like, people's behalf, like,
Right.
it's just, I don't know. Like, no one's ever fucking. I almost just said no one's ever oppressed the Jews, and then I remembered there was this one guy this one time. But
Yeah.
anyway,
This.
uh,
Yeah. I'm like.
it's just, yeah, I don't know.
So
Yeah.
playing off your like looking for people to be offended but there was something that was actually just posted. People are screen capping this chick's Twitter, and I had it saved. Let me see if I have it. I might not have saved it or got rid of it. So I had initially I want to actually read it exactly. I don't want to like paraphrase
While
it.
you're doing that, while you're finding that, folks, I do want to amend that in the last like 5-minute rant that I just did, I did legitimately forget about Adolf Hitler. And that's on me. I'll take that one. Yeah, that's an L that I'll hold.
It happens, dude. It happens. He's
But
dead.
even then, like, come on, like,
right.
come
So,
on,
I'm
come
not
on.
gonna spend. I'm not gonna spend any more time looking for it, but I'll paraphrase it. So it's like, it's of course a white woman on Twitter, and she's like, so for us polyamorous people, what is our N word gonna be when people start to make fun of us? And she starts like making these fake, like, yeah, like she starts rattling off these fake slurs, and then she's like, maybe it'll just be polyamorous. Maybe I think that's what this was about. But she literally said, what will be our N word? And it's like there's
I need
that
to start
white
figuring out what our N word is for everything. That's so tight.
and then the end of it says curious but angry, or angry but curious. And it's like, so this is literally what is going on right now. This person is enraged at an imaginary scenario they made up in their head, and they're comparing their victimhood already to the N-word.
Yeah, 95% of Twitter posts are just making up a guy and then getting mad at him.
Right.
That's pretty much what most white women post on like on the internet. Is like you make up a sequence. And here's the thing, a lot of it is probably Freudian in nature, where it's like you had an ex that had one trait that you didn't like, and so you just invent a guy that is that trait and get mad at him, and then suddenly 400,000 likes later, you're selling dildos under your tweet for, $30 an ad or whatever. Which, like, fucking secure the bag, but also shut the fuck up.
Like, there's a, male, when you start getting into that kind of culture, like male incels, they're dangerous because they're not really dangerous, but like the ones that are become violent, which is terrible, right? They kill people, and that's horrible. But female incels have to be the most, they're not, okay, they're not actually incels. I forget what they call them. There's like some sub form where these kind of women gather and they hate all men and they call men scrotes and
feminists.
It's worse than that. They're looking for men. They're man, I gotta find it again. Like, let me do a quick search. So like, they look for high value men. They call men scrotes. They're not. There's a subreddit called Female Dating Strategy.
Okay.
And so if you've never been there, I suggest you just hang out there for a while, and you'll hate your entire existence. You'll just hate women forever.
Tight. Yeah, that's definitely not the case currently.
These are the most insufferable, like, human beings of all time, and this is like what we are, like, as a society bowing down to, like, acquiescing this. I'm all for the, like, I've always been like against the system, if you want to call it that. I'm not down with any form of institutionalized racism or control by a small group, because really our entire government is controlled by a small group of people. Like, I mean, they're just fucking with us now, really, right?
Yeah.
We had a Bush in office, and then we had a Clinton in office, and then we had a Bush in office, and then we had an Obama, and then we had Trump won, but he beat a Clinton, and like, what's next? Clinton's kids, you know what I mean? Or Bush's next generation, like kids. Like, it never stopped. They're just fucking with us, really. It's just a small group of people who have consolidated power. But like, anyway, like, getting back to like what there's like real positive change we're making in society, like people becoming more aware of class and race, and those are actually good things. And then you have people like this who have full outrage at the world based on imaginary shit in their head that's not real. They just want to be victims as bad as other people.
Yeah.
And I think white American females. I'm gonna specify American, because if you're like a white chick from Romania, I don't think you're that privileged. But if
Sure.
you're a white American chick, I think you have more privilege and more power at this point in history than anybody else did,
Hmm.
almost at
And you
any
should
time.
also probably get my phone number.
All right. I, I I don't want them. I don't fuck with white women.
I'll fuck white women. I don't know if I fuck with white women.
Oh, fuck white women. I'm not. I don't even know if I'll do that, dude. I don't even know. I'm specifying again white American women. If you're from France or Italy or like Bulgaria, I don't give a fuck.
I feel like Canadian with white women might be worse, right?
Possibly because they have like the ego of
Yeah.
American women, but don't actually have being American to
They're
back it up.
yeah, they're just our hat, right? Like that's all it
Right.
is.
Yeah, like they think they're us, but they're not.
Hmm.
Like so. I mean, like Canadian white females probably think they're the same as American white females,
That's
and so
true.
it's worse. They have like a false ego because they don't even have the social structure to back that up. I don't know. Do they even have?
Have you seen all the sorry to cut you off. Have you seen all the Trudeau blackface stuff?
That's
That dude has
he's a
that dude has
fucking
worn full blackface in like
like
four
20 times.
different
He
instances.
he ran a minstrel show
Dude,
by
it's so
himself,
tight. It's
dude.
so
He
funny, man. I just saw a compilation that was like choose your fighter, and it was Justin Trudeau wearing like a full Native American getup. It was Justin Trudeau wearing the Indian fucking the dot on his forehead. It was Justin Trudeau as like a white like soldier outfit, and then it was him in full blackface. And I legit giggled for like 5 minutes.
uh,
Like,
have you
damn, what's his move list looks like? Oh, that's just a
have you
reskin. What's his move list look like?
which one's the charge character?
Yeah,
Uh,
Native American Trudeau is definitely a
which
grappler.
which one can do a shoryuken or throw a fireball? Uh,
Oh
the
man.
did you have you seen the whole theory that he's like actually the bastard son of Fidel Castro?
No, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, you should peep that. Like, so apparently, like his mom was some kind of activist who hung out in Cuba
Oh,
and
okay.
had or had like diplomatic connection to Fidel Castro, and there's pictures of them together. And then if you put a
Damn.
picture of young Fidel Castro and Justin Trudeau side by side, they look similar.
What a has there maybe ever Yeah, so assuming that's the case, has there ever been a father that would possibly be more disappointed in their son than Fidel Castro and Justin Trudeau? Oh,
Yeah, I don't know.
fuck, man.
I don't know how Kim Jong Il thought about his sons. If the best he could do was Kim Jong Un, he kind of fucked up.
I mean, I don't
Well,
think
he
that guy
he
gets any outs because I'm pretty sure he used to let his sons like feed dog or like feed people to dogs and stuff. So
well, yeah,
you
but
kind
they
of
just they
yeah, you
grew
kind of
up
get to
like that,
sit in the stew that you've made there.
right? But I mean, I wouldn't mind, you know, my hatred for white American females aside, I wouldn't mind seeing his sister rise to power there.
Ooh, yeah.
She's I know that's like a fucking mommy mode dictator right there. I'd be
Yeah.
like, nuke me,
Mm-hmm.
mommy. You fucking
Something
tie me
about
up and send the fucking anti-aircraft guns on me.
Yeah, I think something about hot women in power changes the
Right.
dynamic so much to where like I can't physically be afraid of
When
them, even if they're
right.
like holding a gun at my head. I'm just horny. I
When
just
she
it's
casually talks about the obliteration of other nations, I'm just
dude,
like
it's
fucking like I start swooning. I'm just like, dude, that's a fucking 5-star bitch right there. That's certified. I She's not fucking around.
yeah.
Like she just needs to kick her fat brother aside and just consolidate all power and then fucking just show out in like a M Bison outfit with like but like with thigh high leather boots, and I would be like, I would defect to North Korea tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Oh
I mean,
man.
who wouldn't? She'd have a whole simp army in like.
Oh, she did.
Do
Oh,
you know?
also, did you see the? Oh man, speaking of simp armies, there was that Russian chick, the one that looks like Cammy, that is like she's like super pro torture, and she's like a CIA or not CIA, but she's like a KGB like fucking advisor or some shit, and
Right.
she's just like kind of cute, and all these Japanese dudes sent her like the Japanese prime minister handed her a gift that one of like the most popular mangaka in Japan made of her. It's like a portrait of her as like a cute anime girl. It's the craziest phenomenon of all fucking time.
People
I
like
have to see if I can find it.
I think that there's definitely like
Here it is.
I don't think people are scared of strong females. They love them. Oh, that chick. Yeah, okay, I know who she is. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
exactly, right? Like everybody knows that. It's crazy.
yeah,
She could legitimately overtake Putin, and I promise you, bro, like fucking Dos Vidania, I am there, man.
dude,
Like fucking hand me my Moslem Nagant, play that Russian anthem. I'm in it. I'm in it.
Ru-
Where are we going? Which way,
well,
Eastern woman?
Russian chicks are cool as shit too.
Yes,
So
100%.
the first time I mean, I met girls of Russian descent in the U.S. and I even met like a first generation. So like her parents had come from Russia, so she had like a little accent and stuff and could speak. But like, I didn't meet like a real Russian girl until like the first time I was in China. I was sitting outside and this white girl just comes up and starts talking to me. She's like American. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm not like yeah, but I'm kind of like maybe. And it's kind of like who's asking, but like I don't know anything. These people could be from
Right.
anywhere, and I find out in 10 minutes she's Russian, and she's like, I just want to fucking speak English. She's like, I'm tired of speaking Chinese,
Yeah.
so she just wanted to have a conversation in English to stop me, and then like wound up being cool as shit. Like she's just super fucking cool, and she was heavy into CrossFit and was jacked as fuck,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember what she was going to school for, like international business or whatever the cover story was for her
hmm
fucking spy agency. But
Yeah,
uh,
so when I was at DFC, there was and for those of you who have not kept up, that it was a company I worked at that was owned primarily by Russians. Um, there was a ton of Russian women there. Though to be fair, most of them were like a little bit older, like maybe like late 30s, early 40s, that worked as like clerks and stuff. And it was a pretty small company, so there was only like 60 people total. But there was this one chick that was super bad. Her name was gosh, I shouldn't say her name. She had like a just
make
a
one up.
yeah, I don't
I
know,
just
like
like Russian
Nikita
chicks'
or some
names.
shit. That's
Yeah,
definitely a
there we go.
male name, I'm pretty sure. But anyway,
Natalia,
we'll call it Natasha. There you go,
Natasha.
like or
Black Widow.
like Black Widow, right? Um, and she was like, yeah, she was like the fucking like King Jong Un's sister. Like like you could tell if she had like more money than you were just her bitch. And but she played with it. Like it was a very specific style of like conversation where she's just constantly not like mocking you, but like coming close enough, and then she just flashes a smile, and I'm a puddle. Like I turn into a puddle. And it's just yeah, I don't know. Something about those women, they should rule the world. I don't know what stops them. Probably the Russian men, I guess. Stalin
Yeah,
and all them.
maybe
Yeah.
they just haven't. Maybe they just haven't tried.
It's possible. I'm right there with you, ladies.
Yeah, there's something about brutal women.
I think it might have been all the Xena I watched growing up.
Yeah,
That might have
that
done it.
definitely could influence something in you. But
Yeah, like I watched
Xena
Red
was
Sonja when I was like 11. That shit
okay.
was tight.
Red Sonja is I think she's a little more violent, but Xena is pretty just, right? Though she
Yeah.
doesn't.
hmm
Yeah, there's just something about like female dictators. Are there any? I
Like
know there have
now or
been,
back in the
but like
day?
yeah, but like are there any now anywhere?
I don't think so.
even like pseudo dictatorships are monarchies. Even like I
Well, I
know
mean,
that
Queen
like
Elizabeth, right? Yeah,
yeah, and Japan has an empress, right?
I think so.
Because I don't think there's an emperor anymore, right? I don't remember. But whatever. That's a figurehead. She doesn't hold any power.
Chelsea Clinton.
Yeah, that's the opposite of a bad bitch right there. See, I'm not okay because like just saying her name will probably get you assassinated. So I'm not saying they don't have power or they're not like down to get dirty, but it's not as cool as like I like the dictator that will to your like see like Chelsea Clinton will smile at you and be like, "Oh, you're silly," and then a CIA agent will strap you in your car and turn it on until you suffocate. Um, that's fucking lame. Like what I like is like in North Korea, like that chick will straight up, she will like to your face be like, "I'm gonna feed you and your family to dogs," and like
Hmm.
that is it's a different vibe. I'm into
Yeah,
that. I'm not into
you should
this
look
like
into. So I'm not like I don't know a ton, but one of my favorite female, uh, like I guess, person of interest in history is Queen Elizabeth, or sorry, not Queen Elizabeth, Queen Catherine of the Russian
oh
Empire. This is
okay
before the
yeah
Bolsheviks and shit. So she was notorious for being a major what the fuck is the word?
sadist.
Like sex addicted. Like
Oh really?
like
Is she the one who
yeah, she
fucked
had like
Rasputin
I think
or is
so,
it
maybe.
okay?
Yeah, she had like dildos everywhere. Like there's dildos in all her paintings. Her throne essentially was like very phallic in nature. She used to like just like give herself away to people. It was yeah, very weird. But she also had like a really weird sadist side to her as well. So yeah, she'd have like people tortured in front of her and shit. All this crazy stuff. And Boudica too is really cool. She was with the Celts super long ago. Like this is like not
Okay.
prehistoric, but this is like some prior to medieval era type shit. Boudica was like a female warrior queen, and she was also pretty badass.
That is pretty sick. I mean, I know that there was some. I don't know exactly how it worked because I don't know much about like the daughters of the Khans like Genghis Khan and stuff. Because one, the dude raped so many people, he probably had 7 trillion daughters,
Sure.
and but like he would like marry them off to other kingdoms, and then have the sons like dispatched to battlefields where they would die or be killed, and then his daughters held the power in the kingdoms. So I know he like they became rulers by proxy, but I don't know how badass they were individually.
I'd imagine they'd have to have probably held their own in a steps style horse bow fight, right?
Right, or a throat singing competition.
Yeah, that shit's so tight. I
That's
love
the
that.
fucking
The
best
fucking
music on
Mongolian
planet
throat
Earth.
singing. I remember
That
the
shit.
first time I ever went into Huhat. For those of you that are not familiar, it's like a Mongolian. It's a Mongolian chain of restaurants, and their shtick is like they have the big circle grill, and you just hand them like noodles and meat, and they cook it for you right in front of you. But the first time I ever walked in, my friend that was with me who'd been there before, he's like, "You have to be very careful in this place because things can get kind of dicey." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Just follow me." And we get in there, and I hear because it's really busy. I hear like the dudes slapping their fucking spatulas together as they're cooking the food, and I'm like, "What is that sound?" And he goes, "That's the clashing of swords." And I fucking and I started laughing so fucking hard, like in front of this restaurant. Everyone starts turning at me, and I turn the corner and I see the grill, and I'm like, "Oh my fucking god!" He's like, "Yeah, that's the clashing of swords that you're hearing."
That's
Oh
fucking
man,
tight.
that was
Oh,
so
that's
tight.
funny. That's the battle of the over the grill there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
One more thing I want to talk about is this article that I saw, and there's really no way to preamble this. Teen gets USB cable stuck in penis in backfired attempt to measure length, and the
Okay.
photo that's provided is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it's an X-ray. It looks like of this. Is this CP? No, I mean it can't be, right? Like
No, it's an
if the
X-ray.
New York Post tweets it, right?
It's in
So
they.
yeah, so it's an X-ray of this teen, and there's very clearly a USB cable. Part of it, strangely enough, looks like it's been tangled up. Um, and it's like it's a USB 2.0 on one end, so like the really thick one that you plug into like a desktop or a laptop computer, and then the other end looks like a mini USB or a micro USB. So,
Jeez, what hood
first
is
off,
this?
first
Who's
off,
fucking using that?
this kid was sounding. Let's just get that right out of the way. There's no shot you're sitting there
So
with a USB measuring your fucking dick length, and
okay,
oh, I tripped, and
so
suddenly the whole thing is in your fucking cock.
hold
Like
on.
that's just
I'm gonna need some clarification. So
okay.
I've heard the term sounding before, but
Okay.
I don't 100% know what it means because I
Do I get to be
intentionally
the
don't.
one? Oh, this is
So
okay.
I know I'm guessing it has something to do with sounding rods, right? Like where you would clean the rod.
Yes.
But I
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
But
So
what's
what people used to do is they would take a sounding rod and they'd put it in their urethra and they would
okay?
push it as far in as possible.
Ugh.
For yeah, while they were rock hard. And
No.
that would keep
Oh,
you rock hard and they would then come to climax in that state.
how do
Now,
you get it
sounding
out?
rods, as I'm sure you can guess, are not very practical to have around the house nowadays. So
Yeah.
people have gotten creative, such as this young man here.
How do you even
My
get it
question.
in? I don't even I don't.
Let's get past that. Let's get past that. Let's pretend like sounding is totally reasonable and normal. The main thing I am focused on, and I really wish podcasting was a visual medium because I don't understand how this even happened.
You're
But you
not
know
gonna
that
put something up your
phenomenon
dick
where
hole,
you
are
leave a
you?
USB cable out somewhere and it just gets tangled the next time you see it?
Right.
Are you telling me that that is capable of happening even when it's within the human body? Because
Oh
I'm
my
looking
god.
at this thing, and one part of it legitimately looks like Christmas trees left in
Spaghetti.
an attic over the fucking
It,
year.
it
Like it
looks
is
like
so tangled that it's fucking like it's a spider web of fucking of wire.
it
So
looks
this
like a plate
kid
of
not only
spaghetti
had
inside of
yeah,
him.
he not only had the misfortune of getting this whole thing stuck in his cock, which by the way, kudos. That's some serious fucking pressure you got there. But
Fuck. I'm like, oh
also,
my god, my whole body is like
yeah,
hurting.
also it
Looking
got
at this.
tangled inside of him. Damn, that's like even when you get it out, you got to take the time to untangle it. That's like a major inconvenience. That's crazy.
I don't even under. I still don't even understand logistically how you get that in there.
I
Like, do
don't
you
either
use your
because one end
fingers or
is
do you have to
so
like?
large.
Do you have to like push it in with something? Like, do you need a needle? And like you thread it. Like, oh my fuck, I don't even know. Like, I don't
Maybe
even know.
uh
Fuck. How do you get
maybe
that in there?
maybe we're coming at this from the wrong direction.
Uh oh.
Maybe instead of sounding, let's travel along the bottom of the shaft, pass over the balls, tickle tickle. We go through the
Okay.
gooch. Ah, where are we now? We're at the butthole.
Okay, you're gonna
Maybe
say bussy.
maybe he got it into his pussy, you think?
Yeah.
Maybe he was experimenting with the other sort of uh
But how did he get
forbidden
it out his
techniques.
dick hole then? Oh, fuck.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about the human anatomy to understand this whole
Oh
equation,
man.
but it was
I've never
so
seen a bussy
jarring when I
before,
saw
so
it.
I don't know.
It was so jarring when I saw it that I couldn't imagine
I
it. There was a friend of mine I had in high school that used to be into this shit, like, and when he explained
what?
it to me, I didn't know what it was. Yeah, it's trust me, dude, it's super common. Like, apparently, I
I've
mean,
heard people do it, but like it's gotta be painful.
oh, for sure, yeah, for sure. But I mean, masochism's a thing. Why the fuck would it have to stop at like being stepped on? No, just shove some shit in there, see what happens. I,
I've se- I've seen horrible shit. Like in real
mhm.
life, I've seen horrible shit. And this just this X-ray is uh I'm having like a visceral full body reaction to it. Like it's sickening because I just
It's
imagine the pain and
I just want to know how it got tangled.
well, yeah, I
If
mean
it went in
that too.
tangled, I would be sated with that. Like that's okay, fair enough. You got it in there tangled. But part of me wants to believe that somehow through a twist of fate, this thing went in clean
It was doing
and
jumping jacks.
yeah, like maybe he just like stood up and did some fucking push-ups or something and then
Yeah,
just
I
through the
fucking started
fucking through
twisting and
motion, this thing tangled
right.
itself up.
Or like
Man,
he's
that's so funny.
stroking it while it's in him. Oh my god, and it's like getting pushed in more while he's doing
Oh,
it.
damn, I didn't
And then
even
it's
think
like,
about
yeah,
that.
it's like fucking
Oh, the
rattling up and
logistics of
wrapping
that.
around, and like, I don't know, must be
Oh,
getting
that's
close to hitting a valve, or like before like the prostate, or
yeah.
like the,
Oh man.
oh
Maybe
man,
just yeah, maybe the act of stroke. Oh,
it's fucking in deep. Like it's like
that is
all the way in.
what a oh man, what a cruel fate, huh? Like irony.
How did he have to get it out? Did they say? They didn't just pull
It's
it
probably
out like
still
that.
in
They had
there.
to, like,
It's
oh,
probably still in there. Yeah. I mean, I
I
would
thought he had to
imagine
have surgery.
surgery, right? But who's gonna want to
Like they,
untangle that thing?
so they had, so he's gonna have a literal bussy, because they have to like go in.
I really like this fiction that I've created in my head where a top surgeon is like presented with this case and he's like, "Oh no, I can get that wire out no problem." And then he looks at the x-ray and he sees that it's tangled and he's like, "Ah, fuck, I'm not doing this. I have to untangle the thing." Like he's
He's like,
totally
I
okay
can't.
with doing this like extremely accurate like precision required like just years of training surgery, but he doesn't want to go through the minor inconvenience of having to untangle a USB
He's
cable after he's done. So he's like, no, I can't do it.
he's like, I don't even untangle my headphones, chief. Like,
Yeah, he's like,
that's,
I'm not doing this.
you're fucked. Just cut
Yeah,
it
he's like,
off and see
I
what
switched to
happens.
wireless this for this exact reason years ago. My AirPods don't
Oh
have this
man,
problem, and they
it's
fit in my penis
seriously.
perfectly.
I don't know enough about it um to make any other judgment other than this looks insanely painful, and what a fucked up person. They should probably just, this person just has to be euthanized at this point. There's nothing that can be done for them.
I mean, you keep saying it's painful. I feel like if you manage, like going back to the idea that it's sounding that did this, I feel like if you manage to get this thing stuck in there, there is a small possibility that this dude is just gonna live in permanent ecstasy for the rest of his life. Like,
That's
if you're
true.
into that and
Well,
you manage to get that far, I feel
right.
like you've basically beat the game. Like it's a cheat code.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you just snip the tip and then you let it like rock in there, and as long as you can pee.
Hmm. Well, that's what the pussy's
Dude.
for. Oh man.
We'll have to. It's actually interesting you brought that up, because I think this week our medium didn't show up again.
Oh yeah,
Michelle
yeah.
Obama
She
was a no show
she
for
texted
our
me right
medium.
before this actually, and
Oh.
I'm not gonna lie, she had a good excuse this time. She said Malia uh, had a late night in the Cumtown writers' room and needed a ride home. So fair enough,
Uh,
fair enough. I don't have any qualms there. They do good work.
so, but on that note, I just sent a text out real quick while we're doing this, and we do have a sounding expert lined up for next week, and it's Michelle Obama.
Can you imagine Barack sitting there and he's like, "Now let me be clear. It goes no further than 3 inches in and then 3 inches out. Let me be. I want to be perfectly clear. Michelle, are you listening?" And she's like, "Yeah, I got it. All right, just so you know, 3 inches in, 3 inches out, no further."
uh,
Ah, sounding expert Michelle Obama.